Right, evolution. Can you see the first line here, the definition of evolution? What is it, guys? It is a study of history of life forms on Earth. So what exactly is meant by the word history of life forms? Do you think humans, all the animals, plants, everything on the earth was just created like that? No. Then what happened exactly? So what happened is nothing but, what's this here? History. Okay, how exactly the life on the earth has originated. One of the most, you can say one of the most important chapters in entire biology is evolution. I'm not talking about the PU, I'm talking about the entire biology of the earth is evolution, correct? Is it? In order to study the origin of life, first we need to study the origin of universe and of course the origin of the earth. So what is the age of the universe? It's mentioned here somewhere, you see. Universe has formed around 20 billion years ago. So the theory which explains how the universe has formed is known as the Big Bang theory. Okay. So according to this theory, initially there was a huge energy condensed into a very small particle, which is called singularity. Now that particle has exploded, releasing lots and lots of energy. And because of this energy, I can't discuss all the details here. Because of this energy, some simple structures like electrons, protons, everything has formed, and those condense to form the atoms. Okay, and because of continuous bombardment, a lot of energy and catalyst, everything was present, continued to form different kinds of molecules. And slowly, what happened? As the universe was expanding, what happened was the temperature has come down. When temperature came down, all these molecules, they combined together with the force of the gravity. Okay, so they form the planets, stars, galaxies, everything. So somewhere during this entire process, there was a formation of the Earth, which happened around 4.5 billion years ago inside the Milky Way galaxy in the solar system. Okay, now that's fine, that's something. You see, after expansion of the universe, what happened? You see, temperature has come down, and we have the formation of hydrogen and helium. These are the first atoms to form, hydrogen and helium. Gases condensed because of the weight, because of the gravity, everything, and galaxies of all the present day thing has started to form. So somewhere, since things like happened some billions of years ago, we don't have exact idea. Scientists don't have exact idea what actually happened there. Okay, still research is going on, but presently this is what we know, right? So Earth has formed. Let's say how many million years ago is 4.5 billion years ago, right? Here, in the beginning, there was no atmosphere. There was no oxygen. It was very hot, around 5,000 to 6,000 degrees centigrade hot. But somehow, the water vapors, the methane, carbon dioxide, ammonia, all of them are released from the molten mass from the earth crust, which has been spewed outside. So they combined, you see, water was broken down with the help of UV light to produce hydrogen and oxygen. Ammonia, methane combined with oxygen to form carbon dioxide, water and other contents. As you can see from these chemical reactions, there was no free oxygen. Oxygen was trapped either in the form of the carbon dioxide or in the form of the water. So because of absence of oxygen, we can say that early atmosphere was reducing, which was actually favorable for the formation of the life. Got the point here, right? Next you see. And the water, the earth was very hot. The water never existed in the liquid form. It was always in the gaseous state, continuously evaporated, right? And when it evaporated, condensed, fell as rain. Again evaporated, condensed, fell as rain. So this happened for millions of years. So as the rain was falling continuously, the earth temperature started to decrease. So slowly, for millions of years, because of these rains, the earth temperature has come down and all the depressions of the earth fill with the water, forming oceans. And somewhere here, some oxygen, combined with other oxygen molecules to form the ozone. And this formed a protective layer around the earth. So this is what happened in the beginning, before the origin of life. Now we have, what is this? Origin of life. See, many scientists, many thinkers, many philosophers proposed many theories. Okay, so let's say, for example, the theory which is known as the theory of special creation, you see, special creation. So it was based on the conventional religious literature. So according to this theory, there are three connotations. One is all the living organisms that we see today were created as such, which is entirely false. It's not possible like that. Second thing, diversity was always the same since the creation and will be the same in the future. So according to this theory, you see guys, the earth is only 4,000 years old. We know for sure that earth is not 4,000 years old. We know that it is billions of years old. Right? So in the textbook, it's mentioned the universe is 20 billion years old. But the recent data suggests that the earth is actually 13.6 billion years old. It's not very old, but it's young actually. The universe is young. Right? Now, earth is not 4,000 years old. Earth is 4.5 billion years old. So this is entirely wrong. Then came Greek thinkers, astronomers. They proposed that life on earth was sent from exoplanet. Somewhere there is a planet existing and they sent life in the form of the spores. Not just earth but different planets also. So somehow the spores germinated on the earth and gave rise to all the life forms. Again, still of course some astronomers believe this theory. They don't want to believe evolution. So that is another story. Now coming to theory, okay, this theory is called as the cosmozoic or theory of panspermia. Then comes the spontaneous generation. This theory states that life just comes out of nowhere. According to them, life comes from a dead and decaying matter. See, he's mentioned it. Life came out of decaying and rotting matter like straw and mud, which is again impossible. And that theory was disproved by Louis Pasteur by performing a very famous experiment which is called the Swan neck flask experiment. Okay, there. So Louis Pasteur theory is called theory of biogenesis. He said that life comes only from pre-existing life, but he could not explain how did the first life has come from. He said fine, what he said, life comes from pre-existing life. So he could not explain how the first life actually originated on the earth. So to explain that, two scientists known as Oparin and Haldane, they proposed a theory called as the theory of chemical evolution. According to them, see, this is a statement. Formation of life, I mean, before the life originated, there was evolution of chemicals. Means first there were inorganic molecules. Inorganic molecules, because of the catalyst existing on that earth, they help to convert these inorganic molecules into organic molecules. So first there were formation of the simple organic molecules like monosaccharides, amino acids, nucleotides, such things. And these simple organic molecules, they combined, okay, they reacted with each other, which took again not just 1 day or 1 year or not even 1,000 years, it took millions of years. So because of all these combinations of these chemicals, they form the complex organic molecules. And these complex organic molecules were the precursors of life on the earth. That is the statement. Formation of life was preceded before the life by chemical evolution. There is a formation of diverse organic molecules from inorganic constituents. And the first form of life could have come from pre-existing non-living organic molecules like RNA and proteins. Means formation of simple organic molecules, then there is a formation of complex organic molecules like RNAs and protein. In the last class we mentioned, remember, the first genetic material was actually RNA. So these molecules, they became or let's say they became the precursors for all the life on the earth. And this hypothesis, I mean, this is just a hypothesis. Hypothesis is an idea. And hypothesis will become a theory when it is experimentally proved. And that is proved by scientist S.L. Miller. In which year, guys? 1953. What he did, he performed an experiment using the same inorganic content present on the, let's say, the initial earth. Like what he used, he used methane, ammonia, water vapor and hydrogen. So this water vapor comes from this boiling pot, and this water vapor has been mixed with these gases. Here he did something. He provided a high temperature by using a spark discharge, which was simulating the lightnings on the earth. And this gave a temperature of about, how much, guys? 800 degrees centigrade, which was thought to be the temperature when the chemical evolution was taking place. And when experiment was completed, it took around, I think, some 1 week to 2 weeks. I'm not sure exactly, but 1 week, I guess. After 1 week, he found in this sample collector, he found some amino acids. So what does it suggest? So this may be the reason, this may be how the simple organic, inorganic molecules combined to form the organic components. And these amino acids, they polymerize to form the proteins. Understood? C. Not just S.L. Miller, using the same idea, many other scientists performed similar experiments. And they found the formation of sugars, nitrogen bases, pigments and fats, which clearly suggests that Oparin and Haldane was correct, because they said that there was chemical evolution. And many scientists have proved experimentally that this is how it has taken place. Okay, they were right in about formation of these molecules, but we still have no idea exactly how these molecules combine together to form the first cellular forms of life. Get the point? And one more evidence to prove the chemical evolution comes from the meteorites. So these meteorites are coming elsewhere in the universe and they're falling on the earth. When we analyzed the content of these meteorites, they found that they contain the same compounds, suggesting that similar processes are occurring elsewhere in the space. Maybe some other planet, maybe which is some, let's say, thousands of light years away from the Earth, maybe having the same kind of reactions. Maybe in the future, that planet may also have a life on it. Okay, that is the experiment performed by S.L. Miller. And we have some information here, you see. Life appeared 500 million years after the formation of the Earth. That is almost 4 billion years ago. So when we say life appeared 500 million years after, means in the life in the sense is not exactly a cell. These are the molecules which form the life. Or we can call them as the living molecules. They are the living molecules. And the first non-cellular forms of life originated 3 billion years ago. Non-cellular forms of life means, molecules were actually combining it together. They were acquiring the property of replication. But actual cellular forms of life originated how many years ago? It's 2 billion years ago. It's a mistake. It's 2 billion years ago. The first non-cellular forms of life, 3 billion years ago. The first cellular forms of life, 2 billion years ago. Very important, guys. Okay. Now, Pasteur said life comes from pre-existing life. Oparin and Haldane said life actually came before, after the chemical evolution. So this is actually, Oparin and Haldane is called abiogenesis. It's called as abiogenesis. The version of biogenesis, that is the first form of life, arose slowly through evolutionary forces from non-living molecules, is accepted by majority. Means now majority of scientists accept that life has come from evolution of non-living inorganic molecules. which combined to form the organic molecules, and organic molecules to form the life. Are we clear there? Everybody, right? Now, so we have, okay, so we are suggesting, so that religious literature says that Earth is only 4,000 years old, right? And life did not uh, actually formed by evolution, and it was created as such. Okay, so we have to refute these ideas. Okay, I'm saying that evolution happened. You might ask me what are the evidences, correct? So we have the evidences. We have thousands of evidences to suggest that evolution has actually taken place. For example, you see, the very first evidences comes in the form of the fossils, and these are called as the paleontological evidences. So these evidences, fossils, are simply the remains of the hard parts of life forms found in the rocks. I mean, when an animal or a plant dies in the right place at the right time, there's a chance that this animal or the plant may be what you call them, because of the formation of the, you could say, the pressure and everything, they can convert it into the molds, and these are what we call as the fossils, right? You see, we can determine the age of the fossils by using radioactive method. And if you accept the radioactive methods are correct, we can also accept that the fossils are also very old, correct? Now we know the evidences. For example, you see guys, if you take any religious literature, none of the literature explained the existence of dinosaurs, correct? And we know the dinosaurs existed because we have thousands of fossils of dinosaurs. If religion textbooks are correct, why did not mention these things? No idea, because they came very recently. If we consider the entire age of the earth into 24 hours, the 4.5 billion years, we are here in the last 20 seconds only, less than 20 seconds. We are very new guys, compared to the age of the earth, we are very new. Our life on the earth is like 10-15 seconds in the total 24 hours of clock of the earth. So before that, so many things happened. Get the point here, right? So many things we learned because of the fossils. Get the point here, correct? Now you see. And fossils of different life forms in different sedimentary layers indicate geological period in which they existed. And our earth age is divided into eras, periods, and then epochs. Eras, periods, and epochs. So this statement, you see guys, let me just explain this one. You see, rocks form the sediments, and a cross section of Earth's crust indicates arrangement of sediments one over the other during the long history of the Earth. If you dig the Earth, you can clearly notice that rocks have formed different sediments, different layers of sediments. Or you can simply say Earth is not just one layer, it is formed with the formation of new layers on the one above the other. So we know the age of every layer, correct? For example, if you find a fossil of an animal in particular layer, we know the age of that layer, which means we know the age of the fossil. So how did we know that dinosaurs existed 65 million years ago? Because all the fossils that we found, the dinosaurs mostly existed in those layers which existed 65 million years ago. And when we dated these fossils, we found that they ruled the earth for almost 200 million years, and they suddenly disappeared. I follow my point? Okay. Now different aged rock sediments contain fossils of different life forms. Like I said, one layer may contain the fossils of the fishes, one layer contain the fossils of the invertebrates, and one layer may contain the fossils of algae or fungi. So different layers contain different life forms, and every layer contain different animals, different plants with different characteristics. So let's say the lowest layer, the deepest layer may contain, for example, insect-like animals. the layers above it may contain dinosaurs, which means there was evolution, simple life forms to complex life forms. Get my point here, right? So we know this is how the evolution has taken place. For example, some of them appear similar to modern organisms and they represent the extinct organism. There is a family tree of dinosaurs showing there. Can you see that, guys? Can you see that in the next page? Can you see that it's showing? Look at the diagram once. So there is Stegosaurus, Brachiosaurus, Tyrannosaurus, Triceratops. All these animals, they descended from the same ancestor. And in between you can see there is something called Archaeopteryx. Can you see that, guys? Archaeopteryx is a connecting link between reptiles and birds. Reptiles and birds. Because this Archaeopteryx, it has characteristics which are, some characteristics are same as the reptiles and some characteristics as the birds. If you notice clearly, the body of this animal is covered by feathers. Can you see that? Right? And if you notice its snout, which looks like a reptilian. And then there is, you can see here, there is two lines going after that. Can you see just above the Archaeopteryx you can see the crocodiles. Means crocodiles, dinosaurs, Pteranodon, Archaeopteryx, all of them share a same common ancestor. Now go to the 4 pages later. Go to this page number. Can you see this one, guys? Look at this one. So here is, guys, this is the evolution of reptiles, birds and mammals. And we knew this because of the fossils. All the reptiles, birds and mammals, they evolved from early reptiles. And they gave rise to 2 species. One is the sauropsids, other one is the synapsids. Sauropsids were the ancestors of all the reptiles and birds, whereas synapsids were the ancestors of mammals. If you notice here, synapsids, the line is going upward like this. So synapsids gave rise to Pelycosaurus, which was extinct. Then there is a therapsid. Therapsid was the ancestor of all the mammals. Then see here. See here, guys. Sauropsids. One lineage, lizards, right? Another lineage is giving rise to turtles. One lineage is something called as the Thecodont. And this Thecodont was ancestors of crocodiles and dinosaurs, then also as the birds. And these sauropsids gave rise to tuatara as well as the snakes, which means this one species was ancestors of lizards, birds as well as the dinosaurs. And the cousin of this sauropsids known as the synapsid was the ancestor of all the mammals. Do you understand this one? And how did we know about this? Because of the fossils, which is true. Now, there's one more on this side. This evolution of the plants. All the plants evolved from a common ancestor, which were known as the chlorophyte ancestors. They're called as the chlorophyte ancestors. And if you notice, chlorophyte gave rise to 2 species. One species here, what is it called, guys? The bryophytes. They are the bryophytes. The second species, tracheophyte. Tracheophyte gave us 2 species, Rhynia type, and second one is these lycopods. One of them is extinct. These are extinct. Arboreal lycopods are extinct, whereas we still have the herbaceous lycopods. Rhynia type gave rise to Xylophyton. And this is the ancestors of all the angiosperms, including monocots and dicots. Also gave rise to conifers, ginkgos, ferns, cycads, and nettles. Are you following my point? Like I said, the geological history of the earth is divided into eras, periods, and epochs. You can see here, these are the eras: Paleozoic, Mesozoic, and Cenozoic, which is divided into epochs and periods. You might be having questions asking which era did the seed ferns evolved. So seed ferns, progymnosperms evolved in Paleozoic. We can say exactly in the Devonian period. Okay, you have to go through this once. Okay, you will understand. Am I clear about this one, everybody? Now, okay, so that is about the fossils. The second evidence is embryological evidences proposed by, this is very important, these two scientists' name is important. Embryological evidences were proposed by Ernst Haeckel, which was disproved by Carl Ernst von Baer. So what Haeckel said, you see guys. So when he studied the embryos of all the vertebrates, he found that all the embryos share certain characteristics. And he said that, you see guys, for example, embryos of all the vertebrates develop a row of vestigial gill slits which are only functional in the fish but are not found in any another adult vertebrates. Even our embryos, including humans, those embryos develop small slits near the neck region. But as the embryos transforms, these gill slits will disappear. But these gills become functional only in the fishes. So according to Ernst Haeckel, that fishes were the ancestors of all the vertebrates. But it was disproved by this guy, who said that the embryos will never pass through the adult stages of other animals. So embryos, characteristics which are present in the embryos doesn't have to be in the adults, which disproves the Ernst Haeckel. Now comes the next form of evidences known as the morphological and anatomical evidences. So for example, the first one, homologous organs. Homologous organs are those which are similar but developed along different directions due to adaptations to different needs. For example, look at this one. So homologous organs are those, in simple words, have same structure but different function. Same structure but different function. The four limbs of humans, cheetah, whales, and bats, all of them have, what do you say, humerus, radius, ulna, carpals, metacarpals, and phalanges. But they're modified. In human, the forelimb is modified to grasp things or hold on to things. In cheetah, it is for a fast run. In whales, modified to help in swimming. In bats, modified to help in flying. Same structure but different function. And homologous organs, generally, they are the result of an evolution which is called as a divergent. Divergent evolution suggests common ancestry, which means, you see, divergent evolution means, let's say this was the ancestor. So they went through many speciation somewhere, like this. So let's say this became the humans, this became the cheetah, like this, whales, bats. The ancestor of all these species had the same anatomy, but as they move to different habitats, the functions of those organs have changed. This is called as a homology. And these are the homologous organs which are the result of divergent evolution and suggest the common ancestry. Are you clear? Right? Now, the other examples include some plants here, the thorns of bougainvillea and the tendrils of cucurbita. Both of them were modified axillary buds. One became the thorn, which gives protection. The other one became the tendril, which gives them to the ability to creep. Same structure, but different function. Other examples include vertebrate hearts and vertebrate brains. So, vertebrate hearts, fishes have two chambers, correct? Amphibians, reptiles, except crocodiles, 3. Birds, 4. Mammals, 4. Then what is the difference? The function is different. Very good. Fishes have single circulation. Amphibians, reptiles have incomplete double circulation. Crocodiles, birds and mammals have double circulation. The functions are different, but the structure is almost same. That is homologous. Second one is analogous. They are not similar. So, different structures evolving to perform the same function. That is called as analogous organs, and these are the result of convergent. For example, the wings of insects and the wings of the birds. Do you think they belong to the same taxa here? No. Insects belongs to arthropods. Birds belongs to vertebrates. Their wings are covered by feathers made up of keratin. The insects' wings are, or say, they're made up of chitin. Both are different structures, but they have the same function because they occupy the same habitat. This is called as a what type of evolution? Convergent evolution, because not similar but result in selection of similar adaptive features in different groups of organisms that evolving the same function. And there is an interesting thing here, a convergent evolution. Other examples includes the eye of octopus and mammals. Is it the same structure? No. Different structure, but the function is same. The flippers of penguins and dolphins. Penguin is a reptile, right? What penguin is? What is penguin? What type of vertebrate is it? You know penguin, right? Huh. Is it a fish, reptile, amphibian, bird, mammal? No, seriously, you don't know what is a penguin. Penguin is a bird. Penguin is a bird. So that means the flippers of penguins and the flippers of dolphins are different, but the function is same. Sweet potato is a modification of the root and potato is a modification of stem, but both of them have the same function, that is storage of starch. Now the one here, there's a diagram, go to the next 2 pages or 3 pages later. This page. So there's a statement mentioned there, just about the diagram here. Look at the sentence here. Adaptive radiation. The process of evolution of different species in a given geographical area, starting from a point and literally radiating to other areas of geography, is called adaptive radiation. So look at this diagram here, guys, this diagram. So this was the ancestor of all the marsupials. As this ancestor moved to different locations, they evolved into different species. because they have to adapt to the new habitat. They have to develop new characteristics, because of which they evolved into different species. So this type of evolution is called as the adaptive radiation. And when two adaptive radiations occur simultaneously, it is called as a convergent evolution, which means, you see, for example, I don't know if I can come back here. So convergent evolution explained here with examples of mammals and marsupials. Now let's say, guys, so this was the ancestor of all the marsupials, this was the ancestor of all the mammals. So one ancestor, so this is a marsupials, and these are mammals. And remember, marsupials are also mammals. So specifically, we should call them as the placental mammals. They are the placental mammals. Let's say one marsupial ancestor went to this location. It evolved into one species. And this placental mammal went to the same location, evolved into one species. Similarly, this marsupial went here, this placental mammal went here, they evolved into same kind of species. So because of the habitat, two different kinds of animals evolved into same kind of species. That is called as a convergent evolution. And this table here shows how it works. Look at the left hand side one, the placental mammal. The mole is almost same as a marsupial mole, correct? Yes or no? Next, the anteater, same as a numbat. Mouse, same as a marsupial mouse. Lemur and spotted cuscus. Flying squirrel and flying phalanger. Bobcat and Tasmanian tiger cat. Wolf and Tasmanian wolf. Which can you see the resemblance between these animals, even though they are different? Everybody? Placental mammals are different. Marsupials are also different. But the resemblance is very suggestive to say that this is the example of convergent evolution. Different structures, but the function is same. Are we clear there? Right? Now, okay. So these are the evolutionary evidences. Now, this one, same thing. The other example of adaptive radiation, the best example is a Darwin's finches, small blackbirds found in the what do you say, the Galapagos Islands. What happened, Mister? What happened? See, guys, all these different types of Darwin's finches evolved from the same ancestor. It's just that they moved to different locations. They evolved different shapes of the beaks. The original the birds were actually seed-eating. But when they move to different location, they have to adapt their food habits based on the availability. Get my point here, right? So some of them became insectivorous, some of them became vegetarian finches, some of them cactus eating, okay, some of them insect eating. So different types of beaks evolved as they moved to different habitats on the same island. This is called as a adaptive radiation. Now, same thing we discussed here. Okay, next one. Okay, see guys, biological evolution. Okay, now you see. So coming to one important scientist here who is known as the Jean-Baptiste Lamarck. He proposed a theory called as the theory of inheritance of acquired characters, which is called as theory of inheritance of acquired characters. He said that there is two things which can cause evolution. One is the use and disuse of the organs. According to him, if an animal or a plant use a particular organ more frequently, that organ will develop its strength and its functionality. And if it doesn't use a particular organ, it will become extinct or it become vestigial. Second, he said that an organism which acquired a character during its lifetime can transmit or say can pass on this same character to the next generation. That's what he said, inheritance of acquired characters. So, I'll give a simple example. To disprove this guy, he said that what he said, the characteristics acquired in a lifetime of an organism can be passed on to the next generation. So there was a guy, I forgot his name, he performed an experiment. He cut the tails of rats for 21 generations. So according to Lamarck, what should happen after several generations? There must be one generation without tails, correct? But that did not happen. So if Lamarck was right, there must be a generation without tails, but it didn't happen. So which means this is incorrect. Changes that happen in the somatic cells will not be passed on to the next generation. Changes should happen in the cells which form the gametes. Only then it can be inherited. Got the point here? Okay. Now, one example which was given by Lamarck is the long neck in giraffes, which was due to the use and disuse of the organs, which is incorrect. Now, coming to the next guy here, Charles Darwin, the very famous scientist of evolution. He is known as the father of evolution. Now, he traveled on a ship called as the HMS Beagle around the world, and he observed that existing life forms share similarities to varying degrees, not only among themselves but also with the life forms that existed millions of years ago. He said, the current or present day organisms share similarities with the current life forms and also with the forms that existed millions of years ago, which clearly suggests that there was actually evolution has taken place. And geological history of Earth correlates with the biological history of the Earth. So earlier I said the sediments formed by the rocks. As you know the age of these sedimentary rock forms, you can also know the age of the fossils existed in those layers. I follow my point here, correct? Then, he was influenced by a scientist known as Thomas Malthus. And Thomas Malthus gave three postulations. The first one is population can grow exponentially. If all the conditions are favorable, any population can multiply hundreds and thousands of times to increase its population. But there are always limited resources, which means because of this limited resources and other things, contributed by nature, can always check the population size, which hence is always stable. For example, a frog can lay 2000 to 3000 eggs in one cycle. If all the eggs hatch, you will be seeing only the frogs, correct? But no, only few eggs will survive because others will be preyed upon by the predators. That means nature has a way to check on the size of the population. So this influenced the Darwin, and he postulated all his theories of evolution based on these three statements. And he said that according to Darwin, any change, any variation are usually small, and according to him, evolution is directional. It goes like a straight line. One change after other, one species becomes next species. It's a gradual process. But he also said population, that in a population exist variations which are heritable. Okay. Simple points to say. There's a very common sentence known as the struggle for existence. What is the struggle for existence? And the second word is survival of the fittest. Two most common words. Struggle for existence and survival of the fittest. Struggle for existence. First, you have to be strong enough to exist, right? Okay, you are strong. There are many like you. Then you have to struggle, what do you say? Survive better than the others. So those that have the better variations, better characteristics, can use the resources better than the others. You follow my point here? So those that can use the variations and the resources better can survive and leave more progeny for the next generations. That is what Darwin said. Struggle for existence and survival of the fittest. Next. So Darwin, according to Darwin, he used the one single word here, fitness. Fitness. According to Darwin, fitness means, what is it? Reproductive fitness. That organism that can leave more progeny means it is fit enough to survive. And these are the two key concepts of Darwinism. One is called as a branching descent, other one is a natural selection. Branching descent means one species becomes second species becomes the third species, and there's a branching of different life forms. And the second one is natural selection. He said that every species is subjected to the same kind of environment, same kind of resources, everything. But those that can utilize them better will survive. This is a very, very important point, the branching descent and natural selection. And anyway, Darwin, he could not explain the origin of variation. He said characteristics, variations are present in the living forms, but how did they actually arise? He has no idea. Second, he could not explain how the species will actually evolve. He said the characteristics, but not exactly the species. And he ignored the work done by Mendel. Who is Mendel? The Gregor Mendel, who proposed the theory of, what was the theory proposed by Mendel? Huh? What are those guys? Huh? Inheritance. How the characteristics are transmitted from one generation to the next generation. If only he studied Mendel, he might have explained all these three things, but he did not. And Darwin was kind of, disproved. I mean, his theory was kind of disproved by scientists known as Hugo de Vries. According to Darwin, the variations are small and the evolution is gradual. But when Hugo de Vries studied mutations on a plant called as evening primrose, he proposed that new species originate as a result of mutations, which are single step, large, random and directionless variations, which he called it as saltation. According to him, one large mutation can transform one species into the other species. For Darwin, there's a connecting links. There must be many species in between these two. But for de Vries, one saltation can bring about a large change that can convert a species into completely new forms of life. That is what he said, which is called as the mutation theory, these mutations appear suddenly in a population. Understood, right? Next, remember this scientist here, Alfred Wallace. Same as Darwin, a naturalist who worked in Malay archipelago, had also come to the same conclusion as Darwin around the same time. They actually communicated with each other and they proposed their theory of chemistry, theory of biological evolution. Right? Now, these things, okay, fine. Now, so there is a evolution by humans. See, even though humans were on Earth in a very small time, we were responsible for the evolution of many species. For example, we were responsible for the creation of microorganisms which are resistant to antibiotics, herbicide-resistant insects, pesticide-resistant varieties. So, if a human was directly involved in the evolution of a species, that kind of evolution is called as the anthropogenic evolution. Is called as the anthropogenic evolution. Now, that is something. Now, evolution by natural selection is an example here. Evolution by, this is artificial selection. This is artificial, and this is natural selection. A best example here which says that it was about the small insects called as moths observed or collected in England before industrialization and after industrialization. Before industrialization, means 1850s, there were two kinds of moths, the white-winged and the dark-winged. The white-winged moths, their population was so high before the industrialization because the tree trunks were covered by lichens which gave a proper, ability to camouflage for these moths. And the the dark-winged moths, they could not camouflage against the same different background and they were killed by the birds. And obviously, the white moths number was high when compared to the dark-winged moths. But after industrialization, what happened, you see? Because of the soot and smoke released by the industries, the lichens could not survive in those areas. And the tree trunks became darker. The dark-winged moths can easily camouflage against a contrasting background, but not the white-winged moths. So after industrialization, the dark-winged moths population has increased when compared to the white-winged moths, which suggests, you see, the agents of selection here is the birds, not the humans. But in non-industrialized areas, the population of white-winged moths is always higher than the dark-winged moths. So here, nature is playing a role by controlling the populations. This is called as an example of natural selection. Wake her up. Yes, miss. You didn't sleep last night? Huh? Are we clear? Now, this is very important, guys. A brief account of evolution. You see here. The first non-cellular forms of life appeared around 3 billion years ago, and the first cellular forms of life around 2 billion years ago or 2000 million years ago. Invertebrates 350 million years ago, seaweeds and few plants 320 million years ago. And you see, there was a fish known as coelacanth, or the lobe fin fish. We thought it was extinct, but in 1938, the same fish was caught in South Africa. And we believe that, based on several observations, that these lobed fin fishes, they were ancestors of all the amphibians, like the salamanders. And these amphibians evolved into reptiles. The difference is, amphibians lay eggs in the water, and reptiles lay eggs on the land, which is covered by a thick calcium carbonate shell, which protects them from drying up in the sun. And these reptiles evolved into mammals as well as the birds. And you see here, so we have these reptiles, modern reptiles. We have the turtles, tortoises and crocodiles. Some land reptiles went back into the water, evolved into fish-like reptiles. What are those, guys? Ichthyosaurs, which happened some 200 million years ago. Some reptiles again went back to the water. Some mammals also went back to become the whales and dolphins, correct? Whales and dolphins. And the land reptiles at the time were dinosaurs, which disappeared some 65 million years ago. And the reasons were two. According to scientists, one is they evolved into birds. Second one, the climatic change, because of a huge meteorite hit the earth, which changed the entire, or to say, demography of the earth. Everything has changed. So according to this theory, it's not just wiped out the dinosaurs, but actually wiped out 90% of life on the earth. And everything came back normal because the organisms were capable of evolving. Understood? Right? Now, this is very important, guys. Next you see, there's something here known as, very important point here in this chapter, the Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. So far, we have discussed how the evolution happens because of variations, because of mutations, natural selection, everything. So we can also find out if a certain population is going through the evolution or not by this equation. What is the equation, guys? P plus Q equals to 1. The expansion give rise to P square plus 2PQ plus Q square equals to 1. The theory is simple. The gene pool, or the total number of genes and their alleles in a population, remains constant. What are those alleles here? Homozygous dominant, heterozygous dominant, and recessive genes. If the frequency of all these alleles remain constant, the population is not going through any evolution. And the value of all these alleles must be equals to 1. Any deviation from this value means the population is going through some changes. The changes indicate the evolution. And this is what we call it as the genetic equilibrium or the Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. And 5 factors influence the Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. One is gene migration, second one is genetic recombination, mutation, genetic drift, and natural selection. Gene migration means when few individuals move from one section of population to the another section of population. If this same gene migration occurs multiple times, it is called as the, because here, gene flow. And if gene migration occurs by chance, it is called as the genetic drift. And you know what is mutation, right? That's random changes on the DNA. Recombination, one of the important reasons for variations of evolution is the crossing over during the formation of the gametes. The recombination, the crossing over. And the last one is, what is it guys here? Natural selection. A process in which heritable variations enable those species for better survival are capable of reproduction and leave more progeny. And this is of 3 types: stabilizing selection, directional, and disruptive. When nature favors one medial character, let's say there is completely darker skin color or white skin color, these are the extremes. The brown color is a median character, that is called as stabilizing. So the peak gets higher and narrower. Directional means when nature favors only one color, either darker or lighter, that is called as the directional, and the peak shifts to one direction. Disruptive, when nature selects 2 different extremes and ignoring the median value, it is called as the directional. For example, in tropical regions, most people have the skin color of either brown or black. If you go to sub-Saharan areas like African countries, the skin color is completely darker. Why? They have more melanin in their skin to protect them from the UV light. And if you go to temperate regions, the skin color of those people is very lighter because they have to conserve the heat inside so that they become lighter in color. Are you following my point? So this nature selects the characters which help the individuals to survive better in that environment. Are we clear here? So 3 types of selections: stabilizing, second one is directional, and third one is a disruptive. Are we clear? Right. So this we discussed already. Okay. And the last one here is origin of evolution of man. See here. So among the stories of evolution of different species, the evolution of modern man is the most interesting and appears to parallel evolution of human brain as well as the language. It's not just about the evolution of the anatomy. It's evolution of the brain's function as well as the language. Only humans have the language. I mean, the verbal language. Now, the ancestors of all the human species were two ape-like animals, Dryopithecus and Ramapithecus. There were actually three more species, two more are there. One is the Shivapithecus, other one is the Kenyapithecus. There are actually four. But in the textbook, only two of them are mentioned, and they existed around 15 million years ago. They walked, they were hairy, and they walked like gorillas and chimpanzees. Dryopithecus was more like ape, and Ramapithecus was more like man. And this Ramapithecus may be the ancestor of all the species. Next comes the Australopithecus, existed around 2 million years ago. And we found the species fossils in Ethiopia and Tanzania. Around 3 to 4 million years ago, there were man-like primates walking in East African grasslands. And some fossils, I mean, they were not taller than 4 feet, but walked upright. Before that, Ramapithecus, Dryopithecus were walking on the 4 limbs. But here they started to walk slightly upright. And evidence showed that they hunted with stone weapons, but essentially they ate fruits. So you can say they are kind of herbivores. How do we know those species were herbivores or carnivores? Huh? Intestine. They are fossils, dear. How do we have the intestines? Not exactly the bone structure, the teeth. If they have well-developed canines, means they are carnivores. Or poorly developed canines means they may be eating meat, but mostly herbivorous. Okay, it's based on the teeth. Now, next one, the Homo genus. We have Homo habilis, Homo erectus, Neanderthal man, and the Homo sapiens. Homo habilis, they were the first human-like being. You can call them as a hominid because they have more characteristics similar to the modern man. And they had a brain capacity smaller actually, 650 to 800 cc, the cubic centimeters. And comes the next one, the Homo erectus, who was living around 1.5 million years ago with a brain capacity of 900 cc. And we found his fossils in Java 1891, and they probably ate meat. Means because of the well-developed canines. And around 100,000 to 40,000 years back, there was a man called Neanderthals. And this Neanderthal has a brain capacity of 1400 cc, lived in Near East and Central Asia. And they used hides to protect their body. I mean, they have developed the self-consciousness. And they had a ritual of burying their dead with the flowers, different kinds of articles. This was a Neanderthal. And comes the modern man, called as Homo sapiens, evolved around 75,000 to 10,000 years ago, which was actually considered as the Ice Age. Our brain capacity is actually same as a Neanderthal, somewhere 1400 to 1500 cc. In between, there was one more guy called as a Cro-Magnon man. He was actually a proper ancestor of all the Homo sapiens. Neanderthal was actually separate. Okay. Now, these Homo sapiens arose in Africa and moved across the continents and developed into distinct races. The Mongoloids, the Negroids, the Caucasians, okay, all these different species have evolved. When they moved from Africa to India, China, Europe, Australia, and Americas. Depending on the habitat, they evolved into different species. Now, there is a diagram mentioned here. So, this is the skull of a baby chimpanzee and an adult human, an adult chimpanzee skull. which is, as you can see clearly here, the skull of an adult human and the chimpanzee's, baby chimpanzee skull are almost same, which means we had a same ancestor. We had a same ancestor, but as they were growing or evolving, these chimpanzees developed a longer protruding jaws. So we had the same ancestor. It's just that our evolution took a different path. Some became the modern day monkeys and we became the humans. We all came from the same great ape, existing some millions of years ago. Okay, so we have crystal clear evidences to suggest that we have actually evolved from some species called the Dryopithecus and Ramapithecus. And humans, we can find some of these evidences by learning about the prehistoric cave art, which was around 18,000 years old. Some of them are found in Madhya Pradesh. The most famous cave art is found in France. It was like several meters of the caves were covered by paintings, and one few can be found here. And agriculture came around. It's actually 12,000 years, but it is 10,000 years ago, and human settlements started. They started living in the groups. Groups became colonies. Colonies became villages, cities, and towns. Okay, it's a huge history. But anyway, this is how the human evolution has taken place. That's the end of the chapter, evolution. Okay, so how much time do we have now? Yep. Now solve the questions